Welcome to another episode of Geek-men and the Masters of the Thunder Nerds. I'm Dustin.
And I'm Zombie13.
That's right. And we have someone special with us today.
Very special.
Welcome, Cornboy.
Howdy, fellas. Does that mean like little yellow bus type special?
Oh no!
I have to tell you, your theme song there. I don't know what it is about your theme song, but it drove my dog nuts just now. He jumped up and started running around barking. I think it's kind of like a 8-bit or 16-bit sounding theme song.
Yeah.
So years ago, we bought a little Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And when you hit the button, it plays the Lucy and Linus theme song, the da 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 da.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it drives my dog nuts. He tries to eat the tree, goes crazy, and he just had that same reaction to your theme song. So my dog's down here just trying to calm down right now. He's still being a little huffy and puffy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, Cornboy, why don't you introduce yourself and let our audience know who you are and what you do at Four Horsemen Studios?
Well, I'm H. Eric Cornboy Mays. I go by Cornboy. Long, silly story behind that, but I am co-owner of Four Horsemen Toy Design Studios. We started out together at McFarlane Toys and eventually moved on and started our own company, Four Horsemen Studios, where we started a partnership with Mattel immediately. And through that, we worked on Harry Potter, Batman, the DC Universe Classics line, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, various incarnations of that over the years. And we have our own lines of figures that we create. Originally starting out with Magma Core and doing Gothatropolis and Seventh Kingdom, and eventually Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, Figura Obscura, and a lot of stuff in that time for other companies along the way as well. And me, I started out as being a fabricator, the guy who makes like a lot of the weapons, accessories, articulation, and things like that, and a little bit of sculpting here and there while doing that. And more recently, I've become more of a project manager since we've kind of like transferred everything over to digital. I just have not had the time yet to sit down and learn how to digitally sculpt or do any of that stuff. So I'm managing all the projects that are coming in, except for, the stuff that Eric does, Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions and stuff. We just let that boy go and he does his magic. But all the outside projects that come in, 90% of them, I do the project management on those and make sure that they look the way that we want them to look. And
Nice.
Kind of what I do now.
Neil, Eric has worked on nearly every property I care about.
That's awesome to hear.
Same.
It's an absolute blessing that we've been allowed to put our grimy meat hooks on as many properties as we have, because even as far as comic books go, Marvel is my love. Like, I loved Marvel comics when I was a kid. I like DC a lot too. Like, I'm a fan of DC as well, but Marvel was like my thing. I was definitely a Marvel zombie. So we got to work on Toy Biz on a few projects way back, and then obviously DC Universe Classics and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Like, Mattel handed us their baby and said, "Here, guys, let's see what you do with it." And they let us do what we wanted to with it like 3 different times, and
awesome.
Other little side projects on that too. So yeah, that kind of stuff. I'll never not be grateful for that sort of thing. It's amazing what we've been allowed to have any sort of influence on. I would think that if it were my baby, I wouldn't want to let other people have all that much influence on it, but other companies have allowed us to put in our touch on things, and we're forever grateful for that.
Yeah.
Well, the designs you guys did on those early 2000s Motu figures were just outstanding. They
Thank you.
made me pay more attention to Masters of the Universe, to be honest with you, because before it was like, yeah, I kind of remember it from my childhood, but these, I'm an adult now. These are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really, I mean, when we started doing that, we had a lot of ideas on what to do with that. And I'm sure you guys have probably heard the stories of our original ideas and concepts for that whole thing and how the sword came to be and all that kind of stuff. And uh, we were allowed to have some input on it, but Mattel, definitely took the reins and said, this is our baby. We're going to do it the way we wanted to. But a couple of things that we wanted to do with it was have more articulation in it. So, I mean, as cool as those figures were when they came out, I was so happy with the way all those came out. I think that they would have been a lot cooler if we would have been allowed to put the articulation in them that we had planned to. We actually showed them prototypes of the figures with more articulation. They had like under ball joint, under ball and socket rib cages. They had, all the normal articulation, the elbows and the wrists, the shoulders, the knees, the waist, the hips, the ankles, all the articulation that they should have had to have a lot of cool poses. But apparently they did some product testing with younger kids, and the kids actually liked them being a little bit more solid with less articulation because they were kind of chunky, and you could toss them around and play with them and not worry about joints breaking, things like that. I suppose. So yeah, we had some other plans for it, but it was still really cool the way it was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least you got to do more with the articulation for the classics line.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as far as the classics goes, the originals, those are iconic. I mean, when you think about 80s toys, obviously you think of G.I. Joe and stuff like that, but He-Man is like, it's got to be up there near number one, if not number one. It's definitely number one for a lot of people. And when we talked about wanting to do the classic stuff, we wanted to bring back that 80s nostalgia and like try to adhere to those beefier, chunkier proportions and everything, but add in the articulation and the paint and some of the styling and stuff that more modern figures had. And once again, got very lucky, and we're very fortunate to have been able to do that. I mean, we showed it to Mattel, and some of the people at the table were a little iffy about it. I think they felt like, oh, this is, a little bit too close to our original. But there was one guy there that said, you know what? Let's put that out in the case and see what people say. So we put a He-Man figure that we did out in the case, and fans loved it. It was at San Diego Comic-Con. Fans loved it, and they said, okay, let's move forward on this. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
I actually didn't know that part.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we had a meeting with some of the guys at Mattel. Like when we would go out to San Diego Comic-Con and we were doing a lot of work with Mattel, we would set aside one day to sit down at breakfast and have breakfast with some of the guys that were in Boys Toys design and like the heads of the Boys Toys department and stuff. And before we went out there, weeks leading up to San Diego Comic-Con, we would come up with a few different concepts that we would present to them there and see if they would want to turn them into something. Stuff for DC, stuff for He-Man, stuff for some other things that I can't talk about because they never came to fruition, and it's Mattel's property, so I can't really discuss them. But that year we had one of the things that we took to them, and the one that was like our centerpiece was what eventually became King Grayskull. It was like our new version of He-Man. Or actually, no. I'm getting the 2000X and the classics mixed up. We brought a He-Man out there, but we had new articulation in it, and we had it. It had the same bulkiness of the original, and I think there was like 5 or 6 guys from Mattel. There was 1 or 2 guys from marketing, and there was guys from the Boys Toys design, and the head of Boys Toys design at the time was there. And that guy we liked working with. I think he had a little bit loftier ideas for Mattel than maybe some of the Mattel higher ups were ready for. But he was always like really open and really energetic about trying new things. So we sat that in front of him, and a lot of the guys at the table were like, "Oh, that's cool. I like that, but I don't know if it's, if it would work as a toy line." And he said, "You know what?" Like, he sat there quiet the whole time for probably 30 minutes when we were presenting this thing. He sat there completely quiet, and he's like, "I like it. Let's go ahead and put it in the one of the cases out there at the Mattel booth at San Diego Comic-Con, and just sneak it in there, leave it in there, see what the fans say, see if there's buzz about it, and see if people want to see this." And so they did it, and it was the very first He-Man figure. I think the lower legs were a little long, and later on that was what was used for the King Grayskull figure to make him slightly taller than He-Man or whatever. But they put it in the case, and fandom went nuts about it. They're like, "What is that? That is cool. What is that? What's?" And they wouldn't say it. They wouldn't tell anybody anything about it. They just put it in the case and left it there until after the thing. And we had to keep quiet about it too. And they told everybody that, we're planning a new line and it's going to be this. And we started working on the plans for all the other figures, and they just released it. I think it was the next year at San Diego Comic-Con. They might have released the King Grayskull or something like that. Was it? I think so. But yeah, that was a cool little thing. I've never seen that happen before, is where they just put something out there and said, "Let's give it a shot," and it went well, and so they went on with it.
I love the history behind stuff like this, because I mean, I remember reading like Wizard magazine and stuff, and Toy Fair, and I've got issues of Toy Fair with you guys in it from Four Horsemen Studios and stuff. So I love behind the scenes stuff like that.
Yeah, I do too. Like, our history now, we really need to start writing this stuff down, because I'm getting old enough that I forget a lot of it, or I get things mixed up now. But I mean, we've been in it for nearly 25 years. I think it's Four Horsemen Studios, I think, is nearly 25 years old. But Eric, Jim, and I have been together in the toy industry for a couple of years before that. So I think we've definitely been in the industry together. I know Jim had been in the industry for like 10 years before that happened, before we got together at McFarlane Toys. So we've been in the toy industry for a while, and seen a lot of stuff, and I've definitely forgotten a lot of stuff. So yeah, maybe we should write some of that stuff down at some point.
Well, you've got sort of a master list on your website at swordhorseman.com of some of the things that you guys have worked on throughout the years. And you start the list off with McFarlane, but you also have stuff from DC and the stuff from Mattel and a few things from Marvel. There was one particular Spider-Man that really stood out to me, and it was before Marvel Legends came out. And it was the first Spider-Man that had the etched in webbings where you put the wash on it and you wipe it off. And I could have sworn somewhere that I either heard in an interview or read somewhere that Eric Treadway sculpted that one.
No, not that one. I don't believe he was ever thinking back, but no, I'm pretty certain he never sculpted a Spider-Man. We did Green Goblin and Hobgoblin around that time. I think Hobgoblin was like a Walmart exclusive, and it was made off of the same Green Goblin body with just a few different parts. But not Spider-Man himself. We didn't do that. Like, when I put that list together, like back on our old message boards when we first started Four Horsemen Studios, I had a list that I'd put together, and that list was lost to time when that message board disappeared. And
I remember that list.
I dug around, tried to find that again, because I wanted to hang on to that and eventually put a list out. And I just never did. Well, recently we were talking about it again, and I've noticed a lot of new fans going, "Oh, I got this, and I didn't realize Four Horsemen worked on this." And I've been seeing that a lot more and a lot more. So I thought, you know what, now's the time. I'm going to put a list together and get it over to Jeremy and have him put it up on the site. So I put it together, and then I ran across past Eric and Jim and said, hey, go over this and make sure I didn't screw things up, or make sure I didn't forget anything, or make sure, especially, that I'm not claiming something that we didn't do. Like, make sure there's nothing in there that I put on there saying that we did that we didn't actually do. And there were a few changes. Like, Eric came back with some things, said, hey, you forgot this, or, you know, I only did this on that, so let's not put that in there. Like, there's some stuff in there where, like, there's a figure listed, like the name of the figure's listed, but really I only did the accessories for that figure. And normally it's noted in there. Or there were times when Eric started a figure at McFarlane Toys and somebody else ended up finishing it because he was just pumping out so much stuff he didn't have time to finish a figure, and he wanted to focus on the ones that he liked the best. So some of that stuff isn't really included. Maybe someday we'll add a more comprehensive list with like notations of every little detail in there. But when I put that list together, it was like I did it in just a Word document. And when I sent it over to Jeremy to put together for the website, I think it was 47 pages. So I say, yeah, that's a decent amount of work that we did there. And it was just listing figures one time through there. Like, there were lots of variant versions that were just paint versions that I didn't list in there. Somebody pointed out, there's all these, not Outer Spacemen, Power Lords that aren't listed in there, but they're really just color variants of ones that we already did. I didn't list those. And with the DC stuff, I think there were paint variants that I just didn't bother listing in there. So, yeah, the list is actually longer, but I figured that was enough. give people time to dig around and, I recognize that thing.
Here. Yeah. This is where's the name on this?
Hang on.
Here it is. Look, it's upside down. There we go.
There it is. Cornboy.
Cornboy.
Do you know the story behind that thing?
I picked this up at the at my local shop. Box is
nice.
a little
For what, like $3?
A little bit more than that.
Really?
More. He knew what he had.
My brother was collecting those. Like, anytime he would see one, like at a toy show or a flea market or on eBay or something like that, they're usually $3, $4, maybe $6 at most. He'd grab one, so he has like a stack of them at his house. And recently they started going up in value, so he stopped collecting. And he said, I'm not worth more than $6. So
yeah, once the fandom of Mythic Legions exploded and everybody found out Cornboy has a figure and yes, is based off of him, they started searching it out. But I also have the Dr. Frankenstein playset with Eric.
Yep. Eric Trenway sculpted himself as Dr. Frankenstein. Couldn't be a more appropriate figure of him. He is literally the Dr. Frankenstein of the toy industry, in my personal opinion.
So I don't have the one where Jim is
nobody. Nobody.
Well, there's nobody.
About the Hunchback. So Jim actually has
Hunchback.
Yeah, Jim actually has 2 figures from McFarlane.
I can't find them.
the nobody, I think the robot body is yellow. I think the regular release was green. It has like this weird brain head. The robot body for the Jim version is yellow, or it could be reversed. I'm not exactly certain, but it's one or the other. It's either red or green. I mean, yellow or green. And it has Jim's head in the chest cavity instead of the little brain head. And then, as you mentioned, the Hunchback playset, the Hunchback variant, which I think was only 100 pieces, so that might be a really tough one to find.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that one has Jim's head on it, and then the regular version has the Hunchback head on it.
So there's another one of those monster play sets that's a werewolf.
Yep.
Who's the mangled guy? Do you remember who that is?
Yeah, that's a guy. They're actually the creature from the Black Lagoon set has a guy in there that we know too. At McFarlane Toys, the victim, Steve the Victim in the werewolf playset was Steve Hamity, which we worked with at McFarlane Toys. And then the Creature from the Black Lagoon playset, the diver guy, is this guy named Terry. What was his last name? Smith? I can't remember his last name now. We haven't seen him in years. But it was Terry. We worked with him at McFarlane Toys, and his nickname was Captain Spankaroo. So I don't remember what his...
Oh,
I
boy.
used to give everybody nicknames, and Captain Spankaroo was his nickname. And I'm not telling you why. But his name was Terry. But yeah, he was the victim in the Creature from the Black Lagoon playset.
Oh, jeez. Well, at least you got a decent nickname that stuck.
Yeah,
So-
that nickname came from a Yugoslavian guy I worked at a machine shop with, because he asked me if we had corn in Indiana, where I was from. He said, "Do you have corn in Indiana?" And I was like, "No, we have mostly." Or he asked if we had cows in Indiana, and I said, "No, we mostly have corn." He goes, "Oh, so you're a corn boy instead of a cowboy." And so at the machine shop, that stuck. And then when I went to work at McFarlane Toys, my name's Eric. There was already an Eric working there, and the owner, one of the co-owners of the place, said, "Well, what are we going to call you? We already have an Eric." I said, "Well, I guess you can call me Corn Boy." That's what I was called at the last place I worked at. So. Corn
Well,
Boy
see,
just kind of stuck, and it's now who I am.
I use you as an example of why people should call me Zombie, because there's so many Erics. My first name is Eric. So
Yep.
I'm like, there's Erics all over the place now, especially in the community. So just call me Zombie. So if we can call somebody Corn Boy, we can call me Zombie.
Of course, yeah.
So we have a question here from Neil Hill. Neil Hill. Ooh.
Mhm.
Can you talk about your earliest days at McFarlane? How did that start and why you left?
Well, the earliest days there, I actually came out to New Jersey. McFarlane Toys is in New Jersey, and I came out to New Jersey to go to the Kubert School of Cartoon and Graphic Arts, and I wanted to be a comic book artist. And I really wanted to be a toy designer, but I didn't realize that was even a thing. I thought that toy design was, something they did. All my toys said made in China, made in Japan, made in Taiwan, all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was all done over there. I didn't realize that like a lot of the actual toy design for toy design companies was done here in the US. All the sculpting, all the fabrication, and then just the production was done overseas. And I mean, that's not completely true, but a lot of it was done here. So when I got into the Kubert School, I was there for a little over a year. I was into my second year of the Kubert School, and I was working in a machine shop part-time, and a guy at the machine shop says, "Hey, I know this place over in Cedar Grove that they do toy dolls and toy trucks, and they want to know if, you want to part-time job over there." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be cool. Do that instead of working in a dirty machine shop while I'm going to school. Why not?" So I called him up. He gave me the number. I called him up, and I was talking to him for a couple minutes, and the guy says something about Spawn and a Spawn truck. And I was like, what is this? And they said something about, Todd McFarlane and McFarlane. At the time it was called Todd Toys, not McFarlane Toys. And Todd Toys, and I was like, uh-oh. Because like a few weeks earlier, I had seen the very first wave of Spawn figures in a comic shop and said, that's what I would want to do if I ever got into the toy industry. I'd love to be able to do that. That'd be awesome, because that's exactly what I would want to do. And so outside, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Todd Toys. Yeah, I've heard of them. Inside, I was screaming. I was cursing. I was just going nuts. My head was about to explode, but I was trying to stay calm. And he said, well, do you want to come over? This was a guy named Ed Frank. He was one of the co-owners of McFarlane Toys AEB, which was a design studio. The other owner was Tony Bellato, which is where the AEB, Anthony E. Bellato, comes from. And he said, would you want to come over and talk to us and maybe bring a portfolio over? I was in Kubert School trying to learn how to be a comic book artist. I didn't really have a portfolio, and I wasn't good. So I took my portfolio over, and it was garbage. But they apparently must have liked something about it. Maybe they could get me cheap or something. But they hired me to come work there part-time. So I started working there part-time and learning on the job because I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
They had me do this one thing that didn't have anything, to do with McFarlane Toys. It was like the AEB portion of the toy design. They were a toy design company before they hooked up with Todd McFarlane. So they were still doing stuff for other companies on the side. And this was for some like arcade thing that they were doing a prototype for. And there was this cardboard print that they had, and they wanted me to cut these windows out and these little parts out of it. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I sat there and I was within exactly life cutting it out and everything. And I butchered it. It looked terrible. Like thinking back on it, I was like, I knew it looked terrible at the time. How could I think that looked good? But they were cool with it. Like I was taking sandpaper to the inside of it, trying to make it smoother because the line I cut was terrible. But, they kept me, and they gave me other work, which was cool work. Like they had me doing like fabrication of stuff. One of the coolest things that I ever did. It's where we met Bill Mancuso, who works for us now. He worked at McFarlane Toys at the time too. I was working on this Cyber Violator, which is the Spawn Violator figure with these mechanical parts and stuff coming all out of it. Eric had sculpted the Violator figure, and we just took that and pulled the arm off, pulled the jaw off, pulled the spike off the back and all that kind of stuff. And I started fabricating all these cybernetic mechanical parts for it. And the horn on its back, I had a little Ford symbol on there. Like one of the things that we did at McFarlane Toys is we tore apart old model kits and used parts out of old model kits and kind of redid them and used those for fabrication. And this thing had, it was a cool looking spike coming out of his back. And Bill Mancuso jokingly threw this little rubber octopus at me. He goes, "Here, you threw everything else into that thing. Throw this into it." So I cut off the tentacles and I kind of reshaped them and changed them up a little bit. And I glued them to the spike that's coming up out of his back and like resculpted some parts. So if you look on that and you see the little tentacles coming up out of his back onto that metal spike, that was because of Bill. That was Bill's idea. But
I think I still have that one somewhere.
It's a really good figure. Like that Violator figure that Eric did, like he did their first bendy Violator that they released, and then later on when he did that articulated one, I loved that figure. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But that was some of the stuff that I did early on at McFarlane Toys, and it was fun there. Like it was like Eric, Jim, and I, and some of the other people who sculpted and fabricated were kind of like in the back of the building, and the offices were up front. And it was like our own little world back there. Like I can't even we would probably get canceled if I told you about some of the stuff that went on back there. It was wild times. We had fun. We were young and having a good time. Like there were many times when Eric and I, and Jim too, but more often than not, Eric and I spending 2 or 3 days at a time at the studio, not going home, just working. And then we had like blankets and pillows there where we would crash for a couple hours and get up and work because we had crazy deadlines that we had to get done and everything.
Wow.
But it was the Wild West during that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then later, the reason we left, Eric, Jim, and I left, we decided at a certain point, McFarlane Toys was kind of moving in a direction that we didn't really want to do anymore. They were moving into military. They were moving into sports. Their figures were about to become more statuesque, and they didn't have like the playability that we loved. And the stuff that they were doing was beautiful. It was great, but it was just not our thing, not our cup of tea. So we decided it was time to move on, and we all agreed that we wanted to move on together because we were all into we all had kind of like the same mindset, and we all worked really well together. Like if any of us had any weaknesses, the other people had the strengths to back up those weaknesses, and we really just meshed so well together. So we decided, you know what, let's try to start our own thing. Let's just go ahead and move on. And we gave our notice. We didn't leave them in a lurch. And we wanted to start our own thing. And it just happened that we we're in contact with a guy. It was a friend of Jim's who knew some people over at Fisher Price, who knew some people over at Mattel, who said that they were looking for like a design team, kind of like ours, that was outside the realm of Mattel, so they wouldn't have to go through all the red tape. They just pay this team to do stuff and go with it. And we turned out to be that team. It was just like me finding out about McFarlane Toys. It was like a lot of my life has just been pure dumb luck. I just fall face first into good crap, I guess. And so we just kind of lucked out there, and it was perfect timing. We went out to meet the guys at Mattel, Eric, Jim, and I. And I've told this story before too. We were all in these nice business suits. We're carrying briefcases. We had boxes with prototypes in it that we were going to show off. And we got to Mattel, and these guys were all, I think it must have been a Friday, because we were all dressed down and just kind of like chilled out. We looked ridiculous. We looked like the mafia walking into Mattel.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then so we got in there, and we talked to him, and one of the guys, John Handy, he was the head of boys design at Mattel at the time. He's like, so what do you guys envision, you guys working with Mattel? I said, well, really, first and foremost, our plan would be to come in and revamp, redesign, and relaunch He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That's just to start things. And they were like, we were thinking the exact same thing. I was like, awesome. I said, you know what? Short of having, ordering cake, ice cream, and a bunch of prostitutes, I don't know how this could have gone any better. So, they liked it, and they hired us. I wouldn't say hired us. They entered into a contract agreement with us, and we had the agreement for like 10 years or so, and then we just kept going and doing work with them on various projects and stuff. It was a really good symbiotic relationship with Mattel.
Well, there you go. Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
So that's why we left McFarlane, just because they were moving in a direction we really weren't into, but the opportunity arose where we could kind of jump right into our own thing with Mattel, so we just took the leap.
Honestly,
Nice.
that's why I stopped buying McFarlane at the time, because they were making things that I just wasn't interested in.
Yeah, like I said, the stuff was beautiful. Like, I even later on, when they released the Where the Wild Things Are figures, they were barely articulated. A few articulation points here and there. Some of the articulation points were useless, but they were beautiful figures. So I bought the whole set. So yeah, I mean the sports stuff they were doing, the military stuff they were doing, all that stuff was beautiful. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Right. Well, Billy wants to know if y'all were responsible for Angela's breastplate connection.
What is it? What's the problem with it?
I'm not
Angela's,
sure. Is that the one
breastplate connection?
I don't remember which one he's
talking. If it's the first Angela release, we didn't sculpt that. It was another sculptor at McFarlane Toys. Actually, I think that was sculpted. The first one was sculpted outside McFarlane Toys. I think Kiwas Studios did that, if I remember right. And really, when we produce stuff like that, we don't there's some stuff that we make so it like plugs into place or locks into place. But a lot of things in that, the factory engineers that afterwards. That Angela breastplate was probably just a breastplate on top of a couple of bare breasts, and it just probably was supposedly going to get glued into place. But I imagine it must have had like square holes in the front of the breasts where the nipples should have been and plugged in there. I'm not sure. I don't recall exactly how that was put together. That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's how that original one was.
Yeah, I would imagine that was something that the factory actually engineered into that.
So Neil Heel has another question. Was Todd pretty hands-on, or did he stay in Phoenix mostly?
A little bit of both. Todd saw and approved every single design that we had that went through there, but he stayed in Arizona. Like, he came out for Toy Fair when Toy Fair was in New York City. He would come by the studio and visit, and during Toy Fair there would be like a Toy Fair dinner that we would all attend with Todd and stuff like that. But he wouldn't come to the studio very often. He would be on the phone a lot with the co-owners of McFarlane Toys, and we would have meetings with them and stuff over the phone or whatever, because at that time we didn't have this. We didn't have Zoom or any of that kind of stuff. It was only phones. We were there. I think they were just starting video conferencing when we were there, and it was very hit or miss. It was not great. But he was hands-on as far as that stuff goes. Like a lot of stuff, like Eric would just sit there and draw design sketches and stuff and present them to Todd, and Todd would give the thumbs up or thumbs down or change it or whatever. But yeah, we did a lot of stuff just on our own. Here's what we want to do, and then he would say yay or nay to it. A lot of those designs, like Eric, he's just a prolific artist all around. Like you put anything artistic in front of him, and the kid is just, I call him a kid, and he's like approaching 40. But you put any sort of art project in front of him, and he's just instantly good at it. Like, but he would just draw all the time. When he wasn't sculpting, he was drawing. You know, when he was just sitting there talking, he would be sketching stuff and everything. And the guy that was the Steve the Victim from the Werewolf playset, he would come in at night. Like when he started at McFarlane Toys, he was just cleaning the place. Like he'd come in and like take out the trash for us and sweep the floors and stuff. And he would empty out the trash can in Eric's office just so he could pull out all the drawings that Eric had thrown away. Eric found out about it. And he stopped throwing his drawings away. He kept put them in a folder.
Well, let's move a little into the present here with what you guys have going on. You guys have really struck a chord with Mythic Legions, and just it was full steam ahead after that first Kickstarter success, and you guys are just keep pumping them out one after another, hit after hit, and now you've got Cosmic Legions that are getting into fans' hands. Can you tell us maybe
sitting next to a box of them?
Yeah, a little something about what the future might hold.
No.
No.
other than more of that, yeah.
For trying.
Yeah, you can't fault people for asking. People ask all the time, and no, we don't. Yeah. We try not to, and I don't know why. I don't know why the toy industry's like that, where they gotta keep things secretive and stuff. But for us, it's kind of fun to have these big reveals of our stuff, and our collectors, fans, and stuff out there, they seem to enjoy it. So we keep doing it that way. But I've never understood exactly why the toy industry is so secretive about stuff that's coming up, other than maybe they're afraid of another toy company jumping in it and snagging up their idea and running with it themselves or something. But
I think a lot of it
I don't really have anything that I can reveal as far as that stuff goes.
Well, I think as far as reveals go, you know, like when Toy Fair magazine used to come out, you had to wait for that magazine to come out to see anything. And then you had, you know, the actual Toy Fair in, what was it, New York, and then San Diego Comic-Con to see anything new. Yep. So it may have, you know, something like that. But, I mean, that's even in the customizer world. Like, people don't want to show what they're working on until it's done. For, you know, the reason somebody might see it and beat me to it. I got to be the first to make this. And
yeah, but, I mean, I get that. I guess I get that. I mean, in the customizer world, you're right. I guess if somebody shows something they're working on and then somebody else says, oh, I was going to do that too, and show something sooner than them, it takes some of their thunder away, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember during the first Kickstarter campaign for Mythic Legions, when you guys revealed the Barbarian Builder, everybody was like, oh, that's great. Now I can make, you know, my not War Duke custom and everything. And then once those got into people's hands, they were actually making them more like War Duke than just, you know, a couple of part swaps or whatever. I was probably the last person on the old message boards to post mine, but I incorporated other body parts from other figures to make, you know, like the correct looking boot and stuff, but kept it Mythic Legions themed instead of more Dungeons and Dragons themed. Nice. But I'm definitely not the first person to do any custom whatsoever, because some people will tell you I take forever.
That was always one of my problems too, is I'm really slow. I'm really meticulous and I'm really slow on stuff. So I think the meticulous is good to a point, being just having exact specifications that you want to have on everything, but at a point it gets in the way too.
So I'm going to ask a question that you've probably answered 100 times on other shows. What is, and I'm going to ask it, I hate people asking me this question. What's your favorite Mythic Legions character?
Oh, that's easy. That's Brontus the Arena Troll. Love that.
I have him right here.
Yeah, he's easily my favorite. Like, I've always been a fan of big, beefy dudes. You know, guys are as wide as they are tall. The Thing is my favorite comic book character. And if you notice, Brontus, he's orange.
Yeah.
He has a blue eye, like the Thing.
Yeah.
I like apes a lot, too. He has an ape-like face. I love Cyclopses. He's a Cyclops. Eric knew all that. I think he kind of put Brontus together with me in mind, because I might have it here. I think it.
So
yeah, like,
so what you're saying is that is the unofficial Cornboy Mythic Legions figure.
Yeah, there you go. Eric made me this years ago, and it's cast. It's like molded and cast. It's John Byrne / a little bit of Jack Kirby version of the Thing, and he's articulate. You can see the blue in there. That's where the casting has worn the paint off of it. But he made me this for Christmas one year.
That's awesome.
Sculpted it and had Jim mold and cast it and put it together for me. So he's always known that the Thing is my favorite figure, and eventually he's going to redo it and do the whole Fantastic Four. You know, for us, for me and him, we're Marvel fans, and he's a Fantastic Four fan too. But for now, that's like my pride and joy of my collection. There's only 3 of those in existence. 2 are painted, and one was a gray one that I'm not sure where that got off to, but. But so Brontus is easily my favorite, because he's like the Mythic Legions version of the Thing to me. I just need to get his fur off and change it out for blue fur, and then he's the Thing.
Well, I've got some pointers for taking the trolls apart if you need any.
Thanks. I could use some of those. I'm not sure how to make action figures. That'd help.
So does that extend to Cosmic also? Is what is his name? Kragnar? Did I say that right?
So when we first got the test shots back of the Cosmic Legion stuff, Slog was easily my favorite, because he has that square, beefy shape. And I just love playing with him. I love posing him. Like, as big and beefy as he is, you can get him some cool, expressive poses. He's not like super articulated, but for what he is and what he needs to be, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And I played with Kragnar a little bit too. I thought he was cool until we got the first painted samples back, and then I fell in love with Kragnar. I already knew he was going to be orange. You know, that orange and that beautiful purple transition. I already knew it was going to be like that, but you know, we saw Paint Masters. Can't really play with them and have fun with them. You can look at them, and that's about it. And I thought he looked great until I got him in hand and started playing with him, and that's by far my favorite of the first wave. I love Kragnar.
That's one I didn't get, unfortunately. I was sad that I didn't get that one.
Why?
It was just timing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had to pick and choose, because I'm not made of money.
Yeah. Same. I'm playing catch up. I'm trying to, like, I'm making customs and like trying to entice people. You know, hey, you know, maybe we can work out a trade for.
That's the way to do it. So, that's smart.
I couldn't afford an all-in at the time, and man, do I have regret, big regret.
So we hear that a lot on some of our stuff. You know, people regretting that they didn't get in on the early waves of Mythic Legions or whatever. And I didn't expect us to hear that much with Cosmic Legions, because the people who collect Mythic Legions, you know, they're into the sword and sorcery thing. And maybe some of them will transfer over to being into the more space adventure type of characters. But I didn't expect there to be as much regret over not having gotten like into the full wave of Cosmic Legions, or not having gotten more of like a certain character for customizing or not, since people started getting them in hand. And that really surprises me, man. I feel bad for the people who didn't get in on them, during our pre-orders, but it's amazing to me to find out that just like from people just getting in hand for the first time, that it's that popular and suddenly beloved, and people are like struggling and just trying to get the ones that they missed and everything. I feel bad for the people who are in that position, because I know the feeling. I'm a collector and stuff myself, but it's an awesome feeling as a creator that people are into your stuff that much.
Absolutely.
That's great.
The good thing that we have now that we didn't have when you guys first started, if you missed the pre-order, you were kind of almost out of luck. You
Right.
did some with some retailers where they had like a particular exclusive or whatever, but now you have approved retailers that will get these in, and you can pre-order from them if they can't pre-order directly from you guys, and then sometimes these people even have stock left over. So that's always an option.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, the retailer costs are a little bit more than our initial pre-order costs, but with some of them, like Big Bad Toy Store, they have it to where they have some free shipping, or like $4 shipping or something, and so it kind of evens out a little bit. So, that's a good way to go. I'm glad we were able to get the retailers that we have involved with this stuff. Gives people a better chance of getting a hold of it.
Then there's the communities like the Mythic Legions Cabal, and now the Cosmic Cabal, and everything like that. And it's a really great community. It's basically the four horsemen message boards on steroids. There's so many people out there now, and there's so many people that are just willing to help people out.
I just saw a post. I don't remember if it's yesterday or today. Somebody who, I don't remember who it was, but I guess they had missed out on getting the Cronin skull and the Cosmic Key, and somebody just sent it to them. Said, "Here you go," and they like posted on the Cosmic Cabal. I mean the Cosmic Cabal. Yeah, thanks to whoever it was for sending this. It's super awesome. This is what these message boards are about. This community. I've said it a bunch of times, and I will continue to say it until I am incorrect. I have never seen a community like Mythic Legion / Cosmic Legion / Figura Obscura on any message boards everywhere. Like you said, it's kind of like the old Four Horsemen message boards from years ago, but on steroids. Like I've called it a family, and I truly believe that you guys all see yourselves and us as family. We see all of you as family, so it's awesome that you guys see each other as family too. Like you joke around like you guys have known each other for 20, 30 years. And it's awesome.
Yeah. Some of us have been around.
At the most recent Legions Con, it was just amazing. Like at the end of the night, like when I'm done with the convention, I'm a lazy old guy. So I usually go up and pass out in my room for a couple hours. I usually go take a dump first. Then I pass out in the room for a couple hours. And sometimes I'll get back up and go with some people to get some food, and sometimes I'll just crash in the room and order pizza. But every time I would walk through that lobby at Legions Con, it was just full of Mythic Legions collectors just having a good time and hanging out and just bull crapping with each other. It was awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
That's something I'm regretting not being able to go to Legions Con this year.
You're not going this year?
Boo. No, I know. I'm hoping to make it to PowerCon.
Oh, nice.
I'm hoping, but it's still a long shot.
PowerCon's going to be an awesome show. Like last year, it was great, and it was like physically about, I think, a little less than half the size that it is now, it's gigantic, and there's a lot more vendors, a lot more special guests, a lot more toy companies. I think it's going to be, in another couple years, it's going to be the San Diego Comic-Con / New York Comic-Con of the Midwest.
Yeah.
As good of a job as Val's doing on it, as quickly as it's growing, as much buzz as it's getting, I think it's going to grow quickly and become really big.
Yeah.
It's a lot more accessible to people than the East Coast or the West Coast. I mean, obviously, if you live on the East or West Coast, those conventions are a lot more accessible to you, but it's not nearly as accessible to people in the Midwest. This, it's in Ohio. That's like the dead center of the country. That's perfect.
Yeah, he's in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm in Ohio. So.
You have to go.
I know.
It's in your literal back door. If you don't show up, I'm going to be upset now.
I know, right? I know it's upsetting, but I'm hoping to get to go. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe next year for Legion's Con.
All right, we'll still be here. Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, you'll still be here. You guys ain't going nowhere. The fans won't let you. This is another one of our hosts here. He says, I want to personally thank Four Horsemen for helping Dustin out during his health scare. That was reference to when Dustin was in the hospital with his issue that he had for a while there, his battle with cancer. I ended up pulling a bunch of the community together and doing toy auctions, well, not auctions, in the Cabal. And we raised a good bit of money for him and his family in their time. So,
yeah, before the show started, Dustin, I asked you how you were doing. And, it wasn't just, some people just asking about you. People were really concerned about you. Again, my wife is going to kill me community, the Mythic Legion's Cabal community, you were the talk of the town. Everybody was really concerned for you, and we're really all glad that you're doing well now.
Yeah.
And without you guys doing what you do, that community wouldn't exist. So, from all of us, thank you.
But by the same token, if it wasn't for all the fans being as involved in that as it were, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. That's why we're always thankful. We're always absolutely we feel blessed that we have the community that we have with Mythic Legions. It's like I said before, it's unlike anything I've ever seen, and we would not be able to do what we do if it weren't for all you guys. I would be working at a machine shop or pumping gas or delivering pizzas again. So,
well, I've been a fan since as far back as I can remember. I mean, I still remember voting on the Seventh Kingdom for the Minotaur, the Zephyus figure that you guys did. I remember voting on that on message boards.
Nice.
I had stuff you guys worked on before I even knew who you were, and it was like there was just something about some of the figures and some of the waves just had something extra, and I could always pick that out, and it ended up being stuff that you guys worked on or had a hand in making at some point.
I have always attributed that to Eric's sculpting. Like, to me, like comics, when I read comics, any artist that I like or that I followed, I immediately see their work, whether I know it's them or not, and I can pick out different parts that I know. Oh, that's Art Adams. Oh, that's John Byrne. Oh, that's John Romita Jr., who I'm not a fan of, but I know his artwork. Like everybody, like all these artists have these very telltale signs in their work, and Eric Treadaway is the same thing. Like, not only is he prolific as far as the amount of work that this guy pumps out, but he has a very specific style to his artwork that I look at it and I can tell whether it's his or not. And for some reason, like a John Byrne or an Art Adams or something like that, or a Jack Kirby, people connect with that style. I connect with it. I love his sculpting style. And it's not just in the physical sculpture either. I've talked about this before too. When we were working on DC Universe Classics, we were in the midst of transferring over somewhat from physical wax-based clay sculpture to digital sculpture. And our thinking up to that point is that a lot of the digital sculptures that we had seen so far were very lifeless and stiff and just didn't have any real style to them. There was some good stuff out there here and there, but for the most part, it just didn't seem like it had that oomph that we really wanted to see. And then Eric sculpted, I think it was Wonder Girl, if I'm remembering correctly, the one with the blonde hair with a little tiara and the red shirt. He was sculpting her, and I was concerned about it because he was doing it digitally. It was his first digital sculpture for a toy company or for us.
Oh, wow.
And he was working on it digitally, and I thought I was going to see it, and it's going to be this very stiff, lifeless, just not a good figure. And as soon as he turned his laptop around to me and said, "What do you think so far?" It was an Eric Treadaway sculpture. Like her face, like her features, the way everything was constructed, it was there. Like he just transferred over from a metal tool in his hand and a physical chunk of clay to a digital stylus and a screen, and it transferred, I say flawlessly, because I didn't see a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but he said it was frustrating as hell, and he had a lot of very frustrating adventures going from physical to digital sculpture. I don't really believe him because, like I said before, he just picks up artwork like that and he's instantly good. But yeah, I instantly, as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, we're good here then. This is going to be a good thing. Because we fought going to digital, kicking and screaming. We're like, why? Why would anybody want to do that? This is sculpture. But he picked it up and just ran with that ball. Now the stuff that he's doing, that Monkey King, there's nothing like it out there. Like his stuff is incredible.
No, I remember the hold up with the Raven figure for the Gothatropolis was all of those feathers needed to be sculpted. So I could only imagine that armor on the Monkey King.
Yeah. And the bad part was when we first sent the Raven over to the factory for tooling, they tooled it up, and the little moon thing that it has on the shoulder pads, when it came back, that thing looked like a golf ball. It was terrible. It was like they just took a round object and poked a bunch of holes in it. It didn't look like that beautifully sculpted little moon that Eric did. The feathers didn't have any of the detail that we put into it. They were like just hacked in. We're like, no. We actually had to move that project to a different factory. Chris Gorich was actually doing our production management overseas at that time. And we actually had to move that production to a different factory in order them to be able to capture the details that Eric had sculpted into that figure. The one factory just couldn't do it. They couldn't handle it.
That's amazing. You guys have had a few hiccups throughout the years with factories. I remember the elephant from the Seventh Kingdom, Ramathor.
That was a nightmare.
That was a nightmare.
We were in mid-production. We're probably about halfway through production, and they said that they were going slow, and they were going to, instead of send us the whole shipment at once, they were just going to send us part of the shipment now and send the rest later. And we're like, okay, I guess that'll work. And they sent us, I think it was the Red Mutant and a couple of the other characters. And when we got them, the joints were like loose and floppy. They were falling apart in the package. It was like, what happened here? And so we contacted the factory, and they were gone. The factory just folded up and was no longer there. All of our steel molds that we were using for production had been left outside the factory in the rain, getting all rusty. And we're like, what do we do now? We had tens of thousands, almost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But at the time, multiple tens of thousands of dollars. And we were a fledgling starting up company. We had no idea what to do. That was really going to screw us over financially. Luckily, we had a friend in the toy industry who was going to be going over there for NECA. And NECA was actually going over there. They were using the same factory, and they were kind of in somewhat the same boat we were. And so when they sent their guy over there to check things out and to figure out what to do with them, they grabbed our steel molds at the same time. So he had to go back and we had to put, I don't know, it was close to $20,000 back into it just to clean up those steel molds and get them ready for production again, and to pay the new factory to do the remaining production on those figures. But yeah, that was a nightmare.
Jeez. I remember that was a long wait for those.
Yes, it was. Yeah, people think that they wait a long time for a wave of newly tooled figures now.
Oh.
Man. And we vowed then, like when that happened, everybody's like, what happens now? We're like, you will get your figures. We will figure out how. You guys paid for them. You will get your figures. And that's what we still stand by that to this day. If every factory in China locked up their doors and left now, we would figure out a way to get the figures that people have pre-ordered from us in the hands of the people that pre-ordered them, even if it all had to come out of our pockets.
Well, you guys are good like that, so
yeah. We try to be.
I have total faith in you. I know I giggle every time somebody says, well, I ordered these a few months ago. When are they supposed to ship? And I'm going, oh, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And
that's okay.
We get into a year, and I'm going, still not worse than those Ramathor weights.
Yeah. Yep, that was bad news.
But they came out. You guys did right by the fans, and
we tried to.
Came out, and they're glorious chunks of plastic.
It'd be nice to go back and redo those, but it's not
I wish you would. I wish you would. Oh,
I'm sure
people say that all the time.
Road, I'm sure somewhere down the road we'll have a big elephantine guy in one of the lines somewhere. But
you guys could put all of those old characters in figure obscura. I Do it!
Oh man, I can't wait! I can't wait until people see what's coming up in figura obscura. Like the word obscure, they're gonna like it.
I'm a fan. I mean, I've got all of them so far, and that's one that I'll probably be a completist on. I'm not a completist in Legions or Cosmic currently. There's just so much good stuff. So I do have to pick and choose.
The retailer versions of Figura Obscura too, or just the standard versions?
Yeah, no, I'm going for the retail ones too.
A lot of people said, like the Headless Horseman, people said they like the retailer version better than the original. I mean they don't have it in hand yet, but
I'm partial to green, so I get that. I get that. You got
when I get the retailer version, I'm going to swap some parts out between the two. There's some parts from the retailer version I'm going to put on the original version, and vice versa.
Father Christmas would have probably been the green one would probably been a pass for me, but then you guys repainted those damn toys that he came with, and one of them was a damn duck with a scar over his eye.
Yep, Minotaur the duck.
You got me.
Good. Sorry, but good.
Well, I mean, I know somebody locally that's been he's been given the green light on being an approved retailer, so he's got a shop.
Oh, nice.
I'll be picking up my stuff locally.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, Dustin, do you have anything you wanna?
Yeah,
you wanna ask?
And for Francis, he looks at that Headless Horseman every day on Big Bad Toy Store.
Yeah. Oh, there was a question I want to go back to.
Now, I do want to point out, those are literally retailer exclusives. Like, we will not sell those through Store Horseman. We will not have those for sale at our booths at shows. Those are retailer exclusives. So if somebody's thinking, oh, I'll just wait until I see them at like PowerCon, Legions Con, and pick up some of the retailer exclusive figure obscura, that will not happen. We won't sell those. Those are only for retailers. That's kind of like just a little nod, a little thank you to retailers. I mean, we release the regular versions through our outlets. We don't normally like doing, exclusives. So we try to figure out a way where retailers can have, a little piece of that action without screwing over fans of our stuff. So we sell the standard versions, and then all we do, With the other ones, they're repaints with just a couple little things different, and but they're only going to be sold through retailers.
Well, they are called retailer appreciation.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are.
So that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
We have. Let me find it again. I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Bo wants to know, do you guys have any plans for a Western line? And if so, do you want his bank account number now?
So what did you know the answer to? Whether we'd want his bank account number now? Because yes.
that would probably be a yes.
That doesn't mean that yes, we're doing a Western version. But it doesn't mean no either. Like when we started with Mythic Legions, our whole idea is that the Legions part meant that we were going to have characters that you could build armies with and have your legions of figures, but also that we could take it into different genres. Obviously, Cosmic is the first step in that. But I have a whole list. Oh, it's on my phone. I can't show it to you. Sorry. I have a whole list of ideas that I have for various types of legions moving forward, and their concept ideas and stuff that will eventually sit down when the time comes and start fleshing that out. And I'll probably just hand the ideas to Eric and say, here, run with it, because he's run with Mythic and Cosmic and just do an incredible job with them. So
well,
yes, we do plan to do other types of legions in the future. I would like to do them all now, but you guys are overwhelmed enough with the Mythic and Cosmic. We can't add in 3 or 4 more. But I have a list of, I think it's 7 or 8 different genres of legions moving forward. And I will say that there is a Western version on there. Yes.
Well, you can always
do it? Who knows? But yes.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But we will take your bank account info anyway.
You could always give us a Space Cowboy in Cosmic.
There you go. A Rio Blast version of Cosmic. Yeah.
Yeah, or Bluegrass. Yeah.
Yeah, or Bluegrass version.
Yeah.
Cosmic version.
I'll tell you, I'm still waiting on Fisto, a Fisto tribute, because I made one. Out of Maximus.
Oh, nice.
Right? Anyway,
Magnus.
Zombie helped me.
Magnus.
Yeah,
he's perfect. His head's perfect for that.
Yeah, and Zombie helped me with the sculpt on the arm. That's what I'm still proud of. But
we took a Build-A-Figure part for
Marvel.
It's the Crimson Dynamo. Sorry.
Yeah.
Loading ball was spinning. So we took that forearm piece.
That's perfect.
And I shoved some sculpt stuff up in it and just shoved the Mythic Legion's arm into it and just let it cure, and it works perfectly. You can pop it off. And,
it's so cool.
But, yeah.
That 2000X Fisto was one of my favorite figures that I ever worked on. Like having the little grate for no reason on the back of his hand with all the mechanical stuff down inside. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my inspirations for it too. So
Billy Bay's Rio Blast tribute confirmed. No, there's no confirmation there. He's always trying to start trouble, that kid.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Greg, you're safe. Chris is safe. He didn't give us anything. He didn't slip.
Chris's ears are ringing.
Yeah.
I'm Chris's favorite boss, so.
I shoved some sculpt stuff in it. Zombie.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah, somebody needs to like isolate that and make that part of your opening theme.
Well, this isn't my wife is going to kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm too lazy for that.
The things that we say in our private chat, you have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Our mothers would blush.
Yeah.
So, Eric, are you going to be at PowerCon?
Greg says
You're my favorite boss too. Thanks, Greg. I got a lot of love for Greg. That guy hooked me up with my Jeep at his day job. He's a car salesman, and he hooked me up with an awesome deal on my Jeep that I freaking love. I've never had a Wrangler before. I've had a lot of Jeep Cherokees and Jeep Grand Cherokees, and loved those. And I lifted them all. And he called me one day and said, "Dude, we just got this used Jeep Wrangler in, and it's like cherry. You got to come and see it." And I was like, I don't know. It's a 2016. I didn't really want anything that old. I wanted to try to get a new car because I've never had a newer car. And he's like, no, you got to come and see this. And I went and saw it and just instantly fell in love with it. And he hooked me up with an awesome warranty on it and stuff. So I owe my love to that boy.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, jeez.
There was a question I saw and I lost it. I can't find it again. I'm sorry.
Well, I saw, yeah. Dustin's mom hates my cursing, but she hasn't seen her baby boy in our chat. Yeah, she won't. And she won't.
No.
To answer your question, no, I won't be going to PowerCon.
What about Legion's Con?
I'm working on it. I can't say for sure.
All right.
There's some complications that have come up.
Yeah, I get that. Life sucks.
I was relying on him too. So if
if I can't go, he's not going.
Exactly.
So, no.
But I'm trying.
Okay, cool.
So we'll see.
Hopefully things work out.
Yeah.
I was hit with some unexpected expenses, and I'm trying to replace all of that right now.
Yeah.
Been there.
It's not going as quickly as I would have hoped.
Yeah.
But I'll get there eventually. If not this year, it's always next year.
Yeah.
Like I said, you guys ain't going anywhere. We're not gonna let you. You've got us all about short and curlies with those Legions figures.
Yeah, and Cosmic too. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm sitting next to a box that I haven't unopened yet, and it's like, I need to open these.
You haven't opened any of them yet? Played with them?
No, I haven't yet.
So my Cosmic Legions, like I have 3 sons, and one of them is an artist. He's a sculptor, and he works at Pewabic in Detroit. And Pewabic is a ceramics company that they do like fine art sculpture and stuff, like fine art pottery and tiles and stuff like that. They're world renowned. And one of my sons is now an EMT. He was a Marine and a firefighter. Now he's an EMT. And he lives out in Idaho. And my youngest son is an electrician, lives here in New Jersey. But none of them have ever shown any real interest in collecting any of the stuff that I've ever worked on. They're like, okay, that's cool. Dad makes toys. And their friends are like, oh, that's super cool. Your dad makes toys. But my kids are like, no, Dad makes toys. That's what he does. But they've never been into our stuff. And then my oldest son just texted me, I don't know, a month or 2 ago and said, so when are those Cosmic Legions coming out? And I said, they're supposed to hit the studio pretty soon, within the next few weeks. And he was like, I need that whole first wave. I was like, what? They've all picked up a couple of things here and there, like the Krampus figure or something from one of the Mythic Legions line that was super, super cool or something. They've all, picked up a thing here and there that they wanted. But he's like, yeah, I love those. I'm going to have all those. So for the first time ever, one of my kids is into like a full wave of figures that we're doing. And I never expected that before.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool feeling.
So he's in the sci-fi stuff.
Yep. And he loves them. Like I just got the case that I sent to him the other day and cracked them all open as soon as he got them and just fell in love with them. He loves them.
Yeah.
So now I have to get him one of everything. Of course.
That's like children of movie stars. They're like, yeah, you're just mom, you're just dad, I don't care your You're famous, so what?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was at McFarlane Toys a long time ago, I showed my oldest son, it was a little after McFarlane Toys, but I showed my oldest son like articles of us in magazines and like articles of us online and stuff, and like videos and stuff. Look at all this, your dad, we have fans. Isn't that crazy? And he was like, yeah, but Dad, you own a toy company and all of your fans are nerds and geeks like you. It's like being the Lord of the Flies or something. It's like, he kind of cut me back, brought me back down to earth. I didn't get a big head about it anymore.
Oh, it's like, yeah, no, Dad,
He's
come
like,
back
yeah,
down.
like you, Dad. They're just nerds. They're just like you. What's the big deal? Like, well, you're not wrong about that. We're all nerds and geeks, but yeah, that brought me back down to earth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, he said it's like being the king of a leper colony. And I was like, oh, that's not nice.
Oh!
Yeah. And now we can all talk crap about him because he's collecting all the Cosmic Legion figures. So
Who's the toy nerd now?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's going to be some interesting Thanksgiving dinners.
In our recent interview with Larry Kenny, the voice of Lion-O, he said that his kids didn't want him doing voices for the characters that he was reading in the stories when he read the stories to them at bedtime.
Reading bedtime stories and he's doing all the voices for the characters? Wow.
Yeah. No voices. Just read it.
Just read the story, Dad.
Yeah, that was a good one. And my kids are the same way. I mean, they're always seeing toys and stuff on my desk. Like I have various parts and pieces, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, Dad makes toys."
Yeah, I think that's
toys. That's cool.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Like I've always collected toys. Like I always had action figures and stuff when the kids were growing up, and I've since they were little, I've worked in the toy industry. Like when I moved out here to start going to the Kubert School and then started working at McFarlane Toys, my two youngest ones were like, my youngest one was like 1 and my middle one was like 2 or 3. So they've only ever known me working in the toy industry. So it's nothing really special to them. And there's always been action figures, whether I worked on them or not, around them all the time. So it's just the regular everyday thing to them. So they don't really give that much a crap about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is okay. Yeah. They're doing their own thing. Yeah. Proud of them because they've all moved on and they've got great lives of their own. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Just don't talk crap about my fans anymore like that.
Yeah. Mine are still young, and I've tried to get them interested in painting and everything because I've done it their whole lives. So they've seen me working and customizing on stuff all the time. I mean, look behind me. They're used to seeing stuff like that. So, it's only when I paint something familiar to them, like this one that I just did.
Yeah.
The Grinch with his dog Max,
that's
they're
awesome.
like, okay, yeah, that's cool,
yeah.
Dad. They
now I get it.
Yeah, but I can't get them to pick up a paintbrush to paint anything because they've got their own things that they're into, with their friends or whatever. So.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think my kids can sit still long enough, but they've expressed interest. But it's like, yeah, I don't believe you because you'll tear into my paints and then run off and leave my paints to dry, and it's just like
make a mess and then run around in circles.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've done this 5 minutes, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, no, this takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, they would not enjoy that. But anyway. Well, anyway, I thank you for your time.
No problem.
It's been a blast. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Before we do go, I want to say personally, now that we're kind of almost face to face, you helped me out with an issue a few years ago, actually.
They did?
Yeah.
So do you owe me money for that? I don't remember.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I do or not. I actually spoke to you on the phone a couple of times. I had ordered some of the Seventh Kingdom figures, and when they shipped out, they shipped to an old address of mine.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had to do a little bit of detective work as to what happened or whatever. But you made it right.
Oh, nice. Good.
Yeah, I mean, you made it right for me, and I think I actually spoke on the phone with Eric Treadaway. He answered the phone, and I didn't realize it at the time, and I kind of just totally blew him off. I'm like, "Is Cornboy there?"
It was probably either me or Jim. Eric didn't really answer the phone all that much, but
oh, okay. It might have been Jim. I don't.
Yeah, it was either. Yeah, if it wasn't me, it was probably Jim.
I know it wasn't you, and I was dealing with you, so I was like, no. I was talking to Cornboy about this.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, as Dustin was saying, thank you for sharing. How long has it been? An hour and a half now? Hour and a half of your time with us.
Not a problem, man. It was fun.
Yeah, it's been great.
Good seeing you guys.
Yeah, you too. And until next time, Thundercats ho.